This is Hard Facts.
You're still listening to Hard Facts on 99.3 Nigeria Info. I am Sandra Ezekwesili. The newsroom just took you around the world in 2 minutes. And now it's time for the big hard fact. From now until 6, we're looking at one big issue in Nigeria today. Why did the Lagos yellow taxi fall? And can it get back up? On Monday, I shared a big hard fact with you. On Tuesday, actually, not Monday. Tuesday, I shared a big hard fact with you that the Lagos Yellow Taxis Association says that since the arrival of ride-hailing apps, it has lost almost 7,000 members. Now, we spoke with the General Secretary of the Cab Riders Association, and he had a lot of things to say when we did speak with him on Monday. And we were supposed to speak with the CEO of EkoCab, but a few things happened and we couldn't. Now he's here in the studio, and you can actually watch this interview live on Nigeria Info 99.3. That's on Facebook. YouTube is Nigeria Info FM. Today, let's talk to the people behind the new app so that they can tell us why they think it can save the Lagos Yellow Taxi. In the studio with me is Gideon Nathaniel, the co-founder and CTO of EkoCab. I have as well Shegun Cole, the co-founder and CEO of EkoCab, as well as the brand manager, Dozier. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on Hard Facts.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much.
A lot of the questions I have, I don't know who's going to be answering them, but we're just going to spread it around.
Yeah.
I'll start with Shegun. Why did you start this business? What made you interested in mobility?
Yeah, mobility is like the lifeblood of every city, right? So it's a very important segment to smart city, smart transportation. So for us, it was more of doing something and driving impact that really matters. So, and EkoCab started because we wanted to give a fighting chance to the local traditional taxi drivers, because as at the time, right, it was a global phenomenon. It was you had protests all around the world because of course when the technology came into place, you had outright losses on the part of the local taxis. You had diminishing profit margins. Basically, you had food leaving the table, right? And there were a lot of protests, and regulation at the time wasn't up to pace. So most of what you had as a regulatory framework was to ban the new technology players. And for us, we just felt like this technology was here to solve frictions, right? So what could we do? So we came up with EkoCab, right? Taking advantage of that technology and just using it to give a competitive landscape, competitive advantage for these local traditional players instead of having them fade out, basically.
That's why you chose yellow taxis?
Yes.
Let's talk about the yellow taxis themselves. One of the reasons that they lost business to the e-hailing apps was the poor customer experience. Before you came on air, Shegun, I was talking with my co-anchor, Chubudi, and I asked, do you still use yellow taxis? And he says, well, all things have passed away. So, I mean, you have these cars that are uncomfortable. You have these cars that are hot. There's bad customer service. How do you intend to solve those problems, Shegun?
Yeah, so when initially, when we started to engage these players, one thing that was a fact for us from the beginning was it was not just all about the technology, right? Because that was just one aspect. Another aspect was customer experience. So when we engaged these yellow taxi drivers, we first of all trained them, right? The technologically savvy ones. We did training and we did a lot of cultural reorientation, right? So that was like the main focus for us. So to make them know that, look, technology is here to stay. And of course, you have to understand what your competitors introduced into the ecosystem, right? Great customer experience, right? Basically making their users feel happy, making them, they brought convenience, basically. So what can we do? Things have to be different. And we're happy that they also agreed and shared that perspective, and we both worked together to see that that shared vision became a reality. So a lot has been done. A lot has been done, yeah.
Let me talk to Nathaniel. There's been some confusion about whether or not EkoCab is a government initiative or has the backing of government in any way. So I want you to clear the air right now. You've got at least 200,000 people listening to you in Lagos. What role does government have, if any, in EkoCab? Is the government an owner? Is it a partner? Is it a facilitator?
All right. Thank you very much for this opportunity, because a lot is going on and so many people are rightly confused or wrongly confused about that fact. Firstly, let me state this very clearly. The government do not own a dime in EkoCab. EkoCab is owned completely by Node E-Hailing Services, who is the company that owns EkoCab. EkoCab is a product of our company, and the government are partners only in the areas of regulation. So they offer.
What does that mean?
So the government in like every city in the world provide regulations to businesses on how they should operate. So the yellow taxis in Lagos, they are the tradition of taxis. They are the tradition of Lagos State, way back from the time of past government. Yeah, they were the ones that actually made them paint to yellow, and before they were unbranded. But then they became yellow, and then Fashola in his time changed them from just yellow to different colors. Like, metro taxis use red, and then there are also different ones like that. So the government have always been backing up taxi operations in Lagos State and in every city in the world, not just Lagos. In New York, it is done the same way. In London, it is done the same way as well. So when we engage the government and we help them to see that the yellow taxis can compete, instead of doing like other cities are doing, just outrightly banning the e-hailing platforms, we were able to get them to see that the yellow taxis can also compete when they have the same technology and they can improve in their service delivery. So that is why the government supported the initiative, and the government is always ready to support the yellow taxis.
So the government is a facilitator.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, government is a facilitator. On Twitter, Shegun, you talked about giving advice to the government when they wanted to start regulating and taxing the e-hailing platform. Shegun, in what capacity was your company consulted, and what advice did you give?
Yeah, so before EkoCab, like my partner has rightly said, the company name is Node E-Hailing Services, right? And we are mobility consultants to the government on policy making and policies. So what we did basically was just to make the government understand, bring regulators up to speed to know, to have a better understanding of the regulatory ecosystem, right? So another thing I made known in the tweets were that we are members of New Urban Mobility Alliance, right? And under that, you have shared mobility principles, right? Principles that could be copied from way above 254 cities. So we were just what we introduced into the government is like, this is what is achievable in cities around the world, and we feel that because, especially for example, the current governor's theme initiative, which T stands for transportation. If you want to achieve a smart city status, then this is what is achievable around the world. Why don't we copy from these playbooks and see what we can do in this space? So that was the capacity where basically we're just sharing ideas with the government and nothing more than that.
Your tweet says Lagos State wanted to better understand their operations and bring them under the tax infrastructure. We advised them to set up a sandbox framework while collecting data to help them study the operations. They did. So you're on record saying that you advised the government on how to handle e-hailing apps, including your current competitors.
Yes.
All right. So you also said on Twitter that you advise the state government to tell the local taxis to set up their own e-hailing platform so that government can regulate the entire sector. Explain how that works.
Yeah, so like we said, the initial plan of the government, not just Lagos State, then was to ban, right? And
Which government?
Ambody's government.
Was to ban e-hailing.
Yes, that was the signaling that we were getting at the time.
Okay.
Right? And it was not just the Lagos State government. This is not just limited to Lagos State government, governments around the world. Yeah, so, and we got that signaling that it was to ban this players. So we're like, what's the motive? What was the government trying to achieve? Okay. If the government doesn't have an understanding of the e-hailing ecosystem, so why don't we come in and see ways we could shed more light on that? So that's why we came up with this, which is what is achieved in cities around the world, a regulatory framework, right? Sandbox. And what that does is observe them. Observe their operations, see what works, see if this is economically viable to the state, right? So, and if you see that, and of course, everyone knows that when you set up a sandbox framework, one of the things you do is data collection. There is no success to sandbox frameworks regulatory application if you do not collect data on the operations you're trying to observe, because it's those data that you would use to optimize whatever you're trying to do. So while you do that, if you now see that, oh, look, this is going to benefit Lagos State, right? Then you can now come in and say, okay, do you know what, guys, let's meet you. We have some form of understanding. Can you shed more light? How can we have that voluntary understanding and see how we can benefit ourselves? And of course, even under that government, they reached out to some of these players and they brought them on board. And that's what gave birth to what we have today.
Okay, let me talk to the CTO now. Shagun tweeted that because these operators, like the Yellow Taxi Association, cannot afford to build an app, government introduced you to them, right?
Yep.
So when did you guys become their technical partner?
Well, this partnership sprang for about 2 years or so. Since I think it was since 2017. Yeah, so from 2017 we were introduced to the Yellow Taxi, which were called Lagos State Yellow Taxi Drivers and Cab Operators Association. And so we met with them, we met with their then president, and we came up with an understanding on how to build this technology, and then we delivered it to them.
Shagun, in your tweets, here's a solution that you've described. One, your company, the situation, not solution. Number one, your company was a consultant for government, right? Number two, in that role, you advised government to tell operators like Yellow Taxi Association to set up their own app. Number three, because they did not have the money to do it, you offered yourself. And government introduced you to them. Yes? So basically, you got business through a policy that you advised government to implement. Isn't that a massive conflict of interest?
Okay, so here's the thing. Like I said, one of the things we were doing in that capacity of policy was sharing ideas, right? So it was not like, okay, we're going to go into agreements to share ideas. For example, what you have now, the Sanwo-Olu government, they have launched what is called a Lagos Innovation Fund, right? A smart city plan. So then under that, making the government more accessible. So if you have ideas that you want to share, right, you can bring these ideas on board. So we basically started in this capacity, not necessarily as policy or official policy consultants that the government just said, okay, you know what, if they want to do something, come up. No, we started from the bottom and we're basically just sharing ideas.
Yeah, but you still helped government formulate policy.
So
and now you're playing in the same field.
Of course, that fair. So let me get right up to that. So when we were introduced to these players, one of the things that most of these players signaled back was that they cannot develop, because as at the time, some of the competitors right now that you have spent $100 million just to develop apps, right? Even one of the lists spent $1 million to develop the app as at that time. And of course, you need to understand the context of the situation then, because some of the players that we've helped today were going into outright losses, having to sell their cars and things like that. So they made it clear to the government that, look, if the government cannot provide some kind of support, especially in that area, then there is nothing. They will basically just die and fade out, right, without doing anything. And of course, at that time, since the government was still setting up that regulatory sandbox, there was no funding coming from the government side. And we're like, okay, do we just stand aside, right? What good are the ideas that we share? So it's not really from the areas of conflict of interest. What good are the ideas that we share? This is a social impact initiative. It goes beyond.
But you're going to make money from it.
Of course, but it goes beyond. I'm bringing it from the perspective of motives, right?
Okay.
It goes beyond finance. The finance was not the top priority. What good does this do if at the end of the day there is no financial support and these guys die out, even given the fact that customer experience is still low? And
so you brought in your own funds. Government did not bring in funds.
Government did not bring in
So
at all.
so you brought in your own funds.
Yes.
You told government how to regulate this sector.
Shared ideas.
And now you're playing in the sector.
Yeah.
But you don't think it's conflict of interest.
So now that we're playing in this sector, right? Of course, we came to that form of understanding that, look, now that we're going into developing products, then we have to step back in the areas of policy, so we don't get to things like conflict of interest. So you don't see us now going in that capacity anymore. The government never, especially under the Sanwo-Olu's government, the government never had this conversation. Like, okay, guys, come in as policy. No, we came in as EkoCab.
Your tweets are saying that not only did you advise government to set up a policy you would benefit from, but you also had government directly introduce you to the customers. Isn't that a violation of the rules for consultants?
Okay, so in one of our stakeholder engagements, right? It was more of, if I can remember one of those days very vividly, there were stakeholder engagements, and that was when these players were like, this cannot work, it cannot work, it cannot work. So we approach, like we say, we keep on saying that, we approach the government saying, okay, do you know what? We are going to, if they cannot build this thing, we're going to offer to build it. So we knew that, like I said, the moment we go into developing such a product, we can no longer be policy consultants, because that's, of course, directly conflict of interest. But let us meet these guys. If it is something that they agree to, of course, then we are no longer policy. If it was something that they said, oh no, we do not need anyone to develop this, we're just fine. Let's just see how let's see how we weather the storm. Then we'll remain policy consultants.
Okay, I'll come to Dozie in a bit, but I want to talk to Lagos. Our number says 0700-993-993-993. 0700-993-993-993. Send us a WhatsApp message. WhatsApp is 080-959-75805. 080-959-75805. We're streaming this on Facebook, so I'll take your comments as well via Facebook and YouTube. Nigeria Info 99.3 on Facebook. YouTube is Nigeria Info FM. Hello, good evening. 99.3. Hello.
Hello, good afternoon, Sandra Ezekwesili.
Good afternoon to you, sir. What's your name?
Well, it's Emma from Akoka.
Go ahead, Emma.
Okay, well done. Great conversation you're having. I wanted to hear you out, and happy to hear your side of the story. But first, I must introduce myself. I'm a tech entrepreneur, right? I know how this game works. Now, you said you wrote the regulations, and you step back from being a consultancy. But the regulations are already there. They don't need you to operate again because they are now official. They are now enforcement. Do you understand what I'm saying? So when you wrote the regulations, you don't have to be the one enforcing it, but the regulations are there. Do you understand? Now, let me quickly drop all my questions so that you can answer them together. Now, are you saying EkoCab that I, as MI now, I can go and register a company using Eco with the CAC? Do you understand? According to the CAC document, I cannot use anything that I suggest or represent that I'm working with the government. So you cannot use anything municipal like Lagos, Eco, or anything. So are you saying I, a random person from Akoka, can go and use a business? Now, the conflict of interest is not whether you're actively collaborating with the government. No, nobody's saying that. I'm saying that you wrote the playbook, even though you have stood down effectively, that playbook remains. It does not invalidate the regulations. You understand? Because you won't enforce it, but the playbook is already there. Then finally, this is competition, right? You either choose socialism or you choose capitalism. You are saying, oh, they run out of business. There are also many businesses that are failing, but government cannot come and step in. That's now socialism. It's called capitalism for a reason. If you cannot survive, you get out. Thank you very much.
All right, let's talk to Alan in VI. Hello, Alan.
Hello, good afternoon, Sandra. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm all right.
Go ahead.
Okay. Number one, okay, I'm in the oil and gas sector. I'm in the corporate world. I understand what conflict of interest is, and I'll just tell your guests in the studio that's a direct conflict of interest. No amount of technicalities or trying to run around the issue is going to cover it. It is actually a direct conflict of interest. But however, I know in the government circles, especially in Nigeria, we cover a lot of falsehood. We cover a lot of things. People benefit in different ways from things that are wrong. On the same way, we go back and we condemn and criticize the government, but we're just looking for ways to benefit off it, just like we all say the big cake and everything. Let's just see how we can get our own share. As a matter of principle, I would never patronize that service because there are different ways this could have been done. You can approach the business if you wanted to help the yellow cabs. Now, businesses die out every day because there's competition, things get updated and all that. You don't need to now try to force a business to stay on board if they were not up to date, if they were not doing things properly. I wouldn't go and buy a Peugeot 504 in today's world just because of something. No, there's no point of forcing a Peugeot 504 to stay in business. It's already out of business. Allow it to die off. The point the government is supposed to do is simply regulate the sector properly. Just bring out policies, no problem. Anybody who wants to be a player in the sector, come in and play properly by the game. No need of going back and forth and playing hanky-panky games. We're not silly people. Thank you.
Alan, thanks for calling. Sunday's in Lekki. Hello, Sunday.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, sorry. I just want to quickly ask a question from Daniel, young man.
Okay.
Now, are you telling me what's it called? The EkoCab is not meant for the government, is for an individual? Are you telling me, for example, I want to register my car and I want to use the name of Lagos State government to run a business and nothing, no CAC and all that? So I'll just go ahead and register like that. How does it work?
How does it work? He wants to know. All right, let's let Nathaniel answer that. He's a chief technical officer. How does it work? How do you register Eko? It's difficult to register companies that have names of known entities, especially an entity like Eko. So how did you swing that without government as a partner, government as nothing but a facilitator?
Now, if you remember in our conversation, we stated clearly that the company is Node ELN Services. All right? EkoCab is the brand, though, like they said, the Eco brand is like the Lagos brand. Now, what, if I may ask, what represents Lagos when it comes to transportation, alien transportation? The yellow taxis.
Okay.
Yeah. So EkoCab means yellow taxis, cab, yellow taxi cab. You get. So instead of saying yellow taxi cab, we simply said EkoCab.
Okay.
And we presented it to the yellow taxis themselves were the ones that agreed with the name. When we presented it for launch request to the government, nobody protested. So it's not that the government never at any point discussed whether or not we're using EkoCab. The reason why they would agree to it is because we're giving the yellow taxi a fighting chance. The guy that called earlier said that why not just allow a business to die? If you're the owner of the business, will you allow it to die? You would want to fight. The only thing we've done here is to give the yellow taxi an opportunity to compete.
And that's the point.
That's the point.
You have more things to add there? Because we have a few
Yes.
callers who called in with thoughts.
Yeah. Guess what? I totally understand, right? I think these are constructive critics, right? Initially, in all sincerity, we were actually ignorant of the fact of who owned the Yellow Taxi Association.
Exactly.
So just like the miss...
Who owns it? Is it the government or the people?
Exactly. So initially we thought it was the government.
Okay, but it's
So
not
this
the
was-
government.
So this
It was an association on its own.
So this was the reason why we even approached the government. It was not on lobbying or personal interests. This was actually the reason why we approached the government. We would have gone straight ahead to the association themselves.
I see.
So when we approached the government was like, no, we do not own them. Go to them. So when we say they introduce, it's not like they say, okay, you know what, these guys are here, they're policy consultants, and we want them to. No, the government did nothing of such in any capacity.
The government didn't introduce you to the Yellow Cab Association.
It was not like they just said we are not the owners of them. We know them, we engage with them, but we are not the owners.
Did they set up a meeting for you between you and the Yellow Cab Association?
They just gave us contact details. Like, just go to them.
Okay.
So we approached them and said, look, we actually even thought this was government owned. And they're like, no, this is a private. And they basically schooled us.
Okay.
Right? That, no, this is a private business. And we said, okay, we want to help you, we want to give you a fight.
I'm confused because what you tweeted was that you were a government consultant. So I'm trying to understand how you were a government consultant, but you found out that the yellow taxes. Just walk me back.
Yes. So, like I said, policy consultants to the government, whatever context of.
Because I'm working with your tweets,
yes,
and your tweet said you were a government consultant. You helped them write the rules. Government introduced you to them.
Yeah. So, please, bringing this into context, right?
Okay.
Coming from an angle where I would have expatiated on a lot of things.
Okay.
Right, but coming from an angle where none of what was on Twitter was expected. Right, so I was just trying to put out responses to that on the fly, because when we approached, there's a particular Twitter handle that was very, very much how would I say, more of the reasons why this is where it is today. And when we approached him, most of what he has put up has been pulled down.
Okay.
So basically, much of that was misinformation. So
misinformation
I would say,
on whose part? Yours or his?
On his part.
So
to just spin things. And most of, okay, for example, there's this. So I'm coming back to your question. There was this guy, part of what contributed to that. There was this guy that said he tried to register EkoBet, and nobody allowed him and stuff like that. So this way, most of the misinformation, and that feeds back
but
into.
I don't care about that. I'm talking about your own tweets, which is why we're having this conversation.
Yeah. So being a policy consultant to the government, we shared ideas with them, right? But the initial idea, thinking behind it, was when everyone said they could not develop this stuff. I was okay. You are the ones that own this. The government owns this. Let us help the government develop what the government owns, right? So, of course, yes, sharing ideas, but also in the areas of.
But you just said the government doesn't own the yellow cabs.
Yes, that is when the government now said. That's
They
what I'm
did
going
not
to.
own.
That we do not own this. So it was not as if we from the get go we're like, yeah, we know you don't own this.
So at what point did you now start consulting for government, when you found out that the yellow taxes did not belong to government, but you wanted to work for the yellow taxes?
No. That's why policy.
We never wanted to work for the yellow taxes.
Okay.
Okay, like what we were saying, we discovered that in major cities in the world at that time, even in Ghana, Uber was banned.
Okay.
In London and some other cities, and so we were getting an understanding that this is what the Lagos State government wants to do.
Oh, they wanted to ban Uber in
They
Lagos?
wanted to ban all the e-hailing players in Lagos at that time.
Okay. What year was this?
This was early 20. Yeah, I think it was mid 16.
Okay.
Yeah. So we approached the government with different regulations. We did research. That's the best thing we do. We did a lot of research, and then we started meeting with the right people in the government and started advising in different ways that this could be done. You get, and then at one point we now got up, we came up with an idea, and then they set up a stakeholder meeting, which you said earlier, and they were going to ban. They set up a stakeholders meeting, yeah, and so after the meeting, at the end they discovered that everybody in the transport sector, some people were calling themselves digital apps, that they were not providing
transportation. They were not transport operators.
They were not transport operators. They were digital apps. And so the government was not okay with that. What does that mean? You own drivers, you make money from transportation, you say you're not a transportation operator, you're a digital app. You get, so they now say, okay, for everybody to become a transport operator, even with a digital app, the yellow taxis and everybody should own an app. Yeah, then everybody is now a digital operator, and or everybody is now an e-hailing transportation company.
Let me talk to Dozier, who's the brand manager.
I was gonna address. Well, you can go on. Don't worry.
Okay. So I'm trying to understand this. I'm sorry, but so you shared a policy idea with government as a consultant. They adopted the policy. You now entered the business for which you consulted for government on regulation. How is that not a conflict? How is that not you writing the rules and then entering the game, Dozier?
So I think the problem is the word consulting.
Okay.
It's ambiguous. So there's different ways I can consult your eyeglasses to you and giving you. It's like I'm providing a solution for you. So we already figured out that there was we had signaling that they were going to cancel or stop or ban e-hailing platforms and e-hailing companies. So it was more of providing a solution. We, like he said, sharing an idea with the government, and the government, had policies. So it was more of helping people. Like that's, so the thing is, we're not like against. It was helping people to create a solution for including these yellow taxis on a platform. So if they're going to ban e-hailing platforms or all that stuff, we need to find a solution for that, or like a stopgap, basically. So in the sense of consulting, it's more of like providing a solution. So if you're going to do this, why not do this instead, basically? So that was what we offered to the government per se. So it wasn't like we were writing the rule book or wrote take this and then like change the entire constitution or anything. We just offered a solution to them. They adopted it, and then we were in the best position to execute. So we have an idea. Does this work for you? Yes, it works for us. All right. Can you execute it? Yes, we can execute it, which is what we are doing right now.
Let's talk to Lagos some more. 0700-993-993-993. 0700-993-993-993. If you just joined us, welcome. I have on the show with me Gideon Nathaniel, who's the co-founder and CTO for EkoCab. EkoCab, one of the players trying to bring the Lagos yellow taxis back. Shegun Cole is the co-founder and CEO of EkoCab as well. And Dozier is the brand manager at EkoCab. And we are asking on the show today, why did yellow taxis, the Lagos yellow taxi, fall, and can it get back up? And we're trying to find out what role our guests on the show are playing exactly. We're trying to make that happen. We've got VJ in Victoria Island. Hello, VJ.
Good evening, Sandra Ezekwesili.
Good evening to you.
I've been listening to the program all this far, so I had a gentleman on the studio.
Okay.
And I also got the questions we've been asking them. That's a saying that says that a toad does not roar in daytime in vain. It's either it's after something or something is after it.
Okay.
At the end of the day, seeing what they're after, so we've gotten it right. They don't have anything to explain. They don't have any excuse to give. That's a clash of interests, and that is final. Even the questions you're imposing on them, they can't give you any concrete answer to all of them. They have not explained anything, seriously speaking to you. This we are maybe a political loyalist who were to be compensated using this platform. So We've seen it. They have been
Okay, no, let's be respectful. Let's not make untoward allegations. We've got Mayor from Ajah who says, Sandra, please ask the Echo Technicals in the studio that what is the difference between the already known yellow cabs and the EkoCab that is now an e-hailing ride? All the semantics really amounts to nothing. I strongly believe it is government-sponsored and a bid to suppress other hailing services, not even to compete. Okay. Can an individual register his or her car on EkoCab? I wonder if Eco is really a trademark of Lagos. I know Eco Hospital, a private entity here in Ikeja. No doubt there is a conflict of interest in this matter. Olakunle Emmanuel in Ikeja says. We've got another message on WhatsApp. Sandra, good evening. I, for one, will not use EkoCab. My own is Lagos State government should just leave the e-hailing companies alone. And that brings me to another question, but I'm going to ask that after we talk with Shola, who's in Surulere. Hello, Shola.
Hello, Swan.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm among the yellow cab drivers.
Oh, fantastic.
So, what they are supposed to do for us is over 4 or 5 years ago, because when these people came, we see that it's a big challenge to us, and the best thing for government to help us out, because we are the one that hold the job, we are the owner of the job, to be sincere. We have some fathers over 50, 40 years are doing it in Lagos. The people that came to attack the job, they are strangers to us.
Okay.
But when we told government that in London, when they want to do the same thing, the London taxi drivers insist to their government that they don't need them. And the government of London listened to them. The same thing happened in Ghana, here in Africa. So the government of Ghana listened to them. But the major problem we have in 2015 so now is that the government failed to listen to us. So there is no way somebody who owns a private vehicle that wants to load the app from his house, that you will now see the person that he wasn't a taxi driver, but he wants to be a taxi driver from the app. We not hijack the job from the real taxi driver. So, but the most thing now that we thank God for the people that come out for us to sort it out. If it is to have a good vehicle, we are on board on that to forward ourselves up to that. But God will be with us. So that's it.
All right, Shola. Who's going to take that? Who's going to address that? Shagun?
Yeah, so now look at it this way, Lagosians. These competitors, right? They raise so much funds, right? 3 months ago, one of these competitors raised 53 million euros, right, from the Bank of Europe, and they came out and said these funds that we have raised would be to subsidize prices in Africa, right? We have players that have raised $200 million after raising $50 million, and it goes on and on. It's all on the internet. Now, we have foreign players raising this amount of funds, right? Subsidizing the Nigerian market. The local content, the local players cannot survive. Now, we are not against that, right? Putting into perspective, put all hailing players together. They cannot meet the demand. So there is no, we could say financial motive, but to us, it makes no sense to try and kill the competition. We need more players. But just look at the e-hailing companies that have come out. Close to 14 have failed, right? Because you just can't compete. Now, what did we do? Like we said, we did not start as, we just started as official government consultants. No, we started as young guys, two Lagosian boys saying, our head is full of ideas, and how can we help local guys compete?
Every time you say that, I go to Twitter.
Okay, go ahead.
Because I'm using your tweets.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
What you tweeted was that as a consultant, you helped government write the regulations. So did you perhaps exaggerate things a bit on Twitter?
Yeah, so I'm getting there. You know, I said because I wanted to respond on the fly, because of course, you know the Twitter mode.
You wrote a thread.
Yes, I wrote a thread. So most of that, right? If I could do things again, there are a lot of things I would do. I am accepting that. I'm not ashamed to say that.
So you exaggerated things a bit?
No, okay. If for a lack of a better word, what I'm saying is that many things would have been expatiated.
So you exaggerated things a bit?
For a lack of a better word, if you put it that way. So what I'm trying to say is we grew into that consulting role.
Okay.
Right? We grew. That's what I'm trying to point out. We did not start as official, but we grew into that. It started from come today, share ideas, meet this person, share ideas, come tomorrow, share ideas. In fact, the journey, if we could talk about that journey, it was crazy because here's where I'm going to. We had so many people in the government saying, oh, no, this cannot fly. Young boys, no. This is not a journey of 1 year. This is not a journey of 2 years. This is not a journey of 4 years. We had people, bureaucracy, we had a lot of things. But where I'm going to is this, right? Initially, we thought this was owned by the Lagos State government. Of course, that is not a conflict of interest saying we want to help the Lagos State government develop an app for Lagos State government-owned company. But then, that's the twist. We now figured out that it is not owned by the government. It is a private owned company. And that is when the policy consultant role stopped. But still, yes, like people are saying, some way or the other, the timing is just screaming, you are benefiting from this. But
let me talk to Dozie.
Okay, so go ahead.
We've seen drivers on the older e-hailing apps, your competitors now, complaining about increased government crackdown on them. Dozie, in the middle of that complaint, we now have EkoCab up here, right? And EkoCab's CEO is saying that they've worked with government to create the regulatory environment under which his competitors are getting all this heat. So is this current crackdown on your competitors not working in your favor?
So the crackdown, let me just say this, categorically speaking, the crackdown on these competitors have nothing to do with us. The government have their policies for whatever reasons like he said.
The policies you created for them?
We didn't create.
We wish we were that powerful.
No, hold on. I'm talking to Dozie now.
Go ahead. So no policy amongst the three of us. I don't know if there's anybody else apart from the three of us, but amongst the three of us, no policy was created by the CEO or by the CTO, by anybody in this company. No policy was created to the government, or given to the government to crack down on anybody.
Okay.
The government, it's the government. There's like different levels of the government. They have their policies. They have the reasons why they're cracking down on these guys.
Okay.
Like he said, maybe it's just bad timing. Maybe we've had these ideas for so long, and it's just a coincidence that it's so funny that what we're trying to do, what the maybe the public right now think we're doing, maybe in a few months when they see that we're actually trying to help, the narrative will change because we're trying to actually, we knew that we're going to crack down on our computers already. That was bound to happen by the government. So what we're doing, like I said before, is helping. We're giving.
Did the crackdown start before or after you became consultants for the government?
2015, 2016 was after. So the government already had a plan. They already had whatever reasons they had to crack down on these guys.
Okay.
Basically. So
all right, gentlemen, I need to take a quick break. We've got 14 minutes left on the show.
Right.
My producer's already blinking at me to take a break. But we will come back and we'll continue this conversation. Lagos, you'll talk to them. You'll ask all the questions you have. WhatsApp is 080-959-75805. I'm going to go and take comments from Facebook and YouTube right now. So if you haven't left a comment, Facebook, Nigeria Info 99.3, YouTube, Nigeria Info FM.
Hard Facts. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Hard Facts.
Lagos, you're listening to Sandra Ezekwesili on 99.3 Nigeria Info. I have on the show with me the CEO and co-founder of EkoCab. His name is Segun Cole. I also have co-founder and CTO Gideon Nathaniel. Dozier is the brand manager at EkoCab. And three of them are talking to us about why they want to bring back the Lagos yellow taxis. Why are they bringing them back? I shared with you on Tuesday when we talked about this the first time and had the General Secretary of the Cab Operators Association on the show with us, that the Lagos Yellow Taxi Association says that since the arrival of ride-hailing apps, it has lost almost 7,000 members. The General Secretary, Mr. Molekon, told us that they actually had 12,000 members, and then it was 9,000, and then 7,000 dropped off, but now they're all coming back now that there is an app that will help them compete with other apps. But let's take your calls, Lagos. I'm sure that you have thoughts, you have questions, you have concerns. Share them with us. 0700 993 993 993. 0700 993 993 993. I did say that I was going to go to Facebook and take your thoughts. Facebook is Nigeria Info 99.3. Let's take the first call and then we'll move over to Facebook. Let's try and keep it short because as many people as possible are trying to call into the show today. Hello.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening, sir. What's your name?
My name is Ima from Lekki.
Ima, go ahead.
I have been listening and I quite enjoy what's happening. Lagos doesn't seem happy with what's happening, but I, for one, have been to the airport.
Okay.
And when these other guys want to pick you, sometimes they pick you from a distance. Why? Because the airport taxis are not happy when they are around.
Okay.
But there are some who tell you, guy, I can give you cheaper if I don't have AC. A lot of the yellow cabs guys don't have good cars.
Okay.
And transportation is movement from one place to another. If yellow cab is going to use an app and make the transport fare cheaper, let it come and give competition to these guys who think by giving me AC, the price can be exorbitant. So it's a nice idea. The only thing I don't like is when you want to bring competition and you don't have an unfair advantage using the government, that is the part that I don't like. But having competition by the side, come on. I think is a welcome development so that if you want to give me AC for 5,000 and one without AC for 1,000 and the same transportation from one place to another without argument on Oga give me change, Oga not get change.
Oh, that's quite sad. Thanks for calling us, though. Hello. Hello.
Hello, Sandra.
How are you? What's your name?
Yeah, this is Victor from Kebbi.
Victor, let's try and keep it short. Go ahead.
Okay. Sandra, sometime today, President Muhammad Buhari constituted an economic advisory council. And to the best of my knowledge, all the people on that council are all businessmen and entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
Now, are you telling me that if they advise the government of President Muhammad Buhari on impacting economic policy that treated towards a business and later they invented or they indulged into the business, it's going to be a conflict of interest? Now, from all I've gathered in the studio, these guys were hired by the government to advise them on transportation policy.
Okay.
So even if they venture into any transportation business, to me, it's not a conflict of interest. Once, if you want to establish any e-hailing business in Lagos State, once you meet up the policy laid down, don't think anybody will stop you. So for me, my one question to them is, how do they intend to revive the business and improve on their service delivery? Once they do this, I will patronize it. I like smart minds, and these guys are smart. Thank you very much.
Victor, thanks for calling. I'll let you take that question, Nathaniel.
Okay. Yeah. The question on how.
Yes, how are you going to, how do you intend to revive and sustain delivery?
All right. So now, many people know the yellow taxis with dead vehicles and all. But EkoCab is going to have a standard, because we know that, of course, it's not for the yellow taxis we're doing this. We're also doing this for the commuters as well.
Okay.
The commuters also need good service delivery. And in our trainings with these yellow taxi drivers, especially the ones that are younger and tech savvy, or the ones that are a bit younger and tech savvy, we did a lot of cultural reorientation.
Okay.
So that they can know how they can better service the customer.
Which brings me to another question. What percentage of yellow taxi drivers have smartphones? And what do you do about those who don't have them? Will there be some sort of program to finance the purchase of them?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's a huge number that has smartphones.
Okay.
And then there's a huge number that also has smartphones but don't know how to use it. Now we trained all those people.
Okay.
And then we also have...
You are handling the training?
Yes.
Node
e-hailing services.
Node e-hailing services is handling the training?
Yes, in partnership with the training firm too.
Okay.
Yeah, to supply us trainers.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we also have partnerships that are going to help supply these drivers the basic things that they need to strive in this business.
So is every driver on EkoCab, every person who uses EkoCab, are they going to be on the ride-hailing app? Because when I was speaking with the Gensec, he said no, some of the taxis will not be listed on EkoCab.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those are the taxis that do not meet the standard,
Standard
right?
requirements.
And every taxi that's going to be on EkoCab is they have ACEs.
Okay.
So those are one of the ways that we're going to change a lot of things.
Okay.
All of them have ACEs.
Okay.
We are currently seeking a lot of partnerships that would provide vehicle financing, smartphone financing, and so many others. So of course we are working so much to better the customer experience. So it's not what people think. We understand, but we're going to, with time, we believe we're going to change that perspective. When you see the quality of vehicles and the quality of the user experience that you have with EkoCab.
Does yellow taxis have challenges? A lot of challenges. Some of these estates and hotels do not let them in, right? For example, how do you market competitively against other apps who don't have that movement restriction?
So, like one of the things we're trying to do, like, so with partnerships, working even some estates that are so advanced in some way, we're partnering with these people to recognize the platform.
Okay.
And obviously, this is not going to happen immediately; it's going to happen over time.
Okay.
So, in that period of time, over time, more people begin to accept us, and then we can now have access to estates.
A lot of these places.
Yes, basically.
Now, to be clear, EkoCab is not just for yellow taxis, right? So regular taxis can come on board as well.
Of course.
But people are talking about difficulty enlisting on the app, So are there things in the works to fix that, technical officer?
All right, so like you rightly said, other people are going to come on the app, but before you can come up the app, you need to meet Lagos State requirements. There are so many requirements from the Lagos State government to be a commercial driver. Okay. And I think there are so many people that are driving right now commercially that don't meet that standard.
Okay.
EkoCab is going to maintain that standard and make sure that everybody meets that standard. And that is what EkoCab is currently doing. We're currently making sure that all our drivers meet these standards, requirements, and then we can, after this first rollout that we're doing, then we can now invite other players to join, other people that want to ride with EkoCab
to join in. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. I've had on the show with me Gideon Nathaniel, who's the co-founder and CTO of EkoCab. Shegun Cole is the co-founder and CEO of EkoCab. Dozier is their brand manager. I wish you all the best with this venture. And the more you go, the more we're going to talk to see how it's going.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Lagos, for being a part of Hard Facts today. Hard Facts returns tomorrow at 3 p.m. Don't forget, we're starting really early these days. If you don't want to miss any part of Hard Facts, start at 3. The news ends about 3:02, 3:03, and then you can hear Sandra Ezekwesili. If you cannot wait to hear from me, get online. I am on social media everywhere, Sandra Ezekwesili. Until tomorrow, Lagos, those were your Hard Facts. Let's talk tomorrow. Good night.
99.3, your reliable station for more information around Nigeria.